Here we are! What's up, everybody? It's time for another Piece of Ash Live. This is the sit and chat show where you guys can ask me questions. I work on stuff. We talk about topical, on-topic wargaming things that are current events and on people's brains, and I answer questions from the chat and the mailbag. So today, we're going to be taking a look at some new stuff from Privateer Press. We've got the new Grymmkin Wicked Harvest Force book, as well as the Skin and Moans. How you are, Beast. Privateer Press was good enough to send these along for us to check out today. And I think it's really worth talking about because this is the first book from Privateer Press that really changes the tone of Warmachine. And I want to explain what I mean about that. And of course, you guys should start shouting questions into the chat and getting others in the mailbag if you can. Because the thing I'm going to do first is kind of give you an overview of my thoughts, and then you can ask me follow-up questions based on what I'm saying here, which I think will be a good sort of like segue. And then I'm going to build this heavy war beast, so you guys can check it out as I build it. So what do I mean when this is a change of tone? Well, when Force books first arrived from Privateer Press, they emulated the current sort of like, well, not current, the contemporary Force books of the market. So people got really what they were expecting. They got a nice thick background section for each model, a background section for the faction itself, like an overview of its history and stuff. And then they got unit entries that gave you the stats for each individual unit and a little bit of discussion of like what their own sort of like place in the world was. And so, yeah, so today we've got something really different. We've got a I guess, how do I put it, a storybook almost. This is not a faction book like you've seen from anybody at this point. I can't think of who it reminds me of the most. It's actually written like a storybook, so once upon a time, and it very much follows a very Brothers Grimm sort of mentality. So it's telling you the fable of the Grymmkin. The Grymmkin are a faction that has been around for a very long time. They were part of the Monsternomicon books, which were the monster books for, and some of the campaign books too, for the Iron Kingdoms RPG. And the big thing there was that you've got a sort of like a how do I describe this faction? They're the things that go bump in the night. They're like old gods kind of monsters that are behind the new gods. They're sitting under nature and stuff like that. And the storyline in this book is about how they're sort of being like marshaled and woken up by Zavanna Aga, who's the old witch of Khador, who isn't really behind Khador ever really. And it's kind of her story. And it's the story of these people who are their warcasters. So this faction, so I guess warlocks, because these guys are a faction that is it plays as a hordes army, but it's very different. It's a bit like what the Cephalics were for mercenaries, where they aren't necessarily playing the same way as like a War Machine army, because they had weird abominations. So you can see here, like, here's a page. It's not written like a standard book would be. It's very much like, this feels like I'm holding somebody's crazy journal that's trying to tell me about the Grymmkin, and they're sort of slowly going insane while they do it. And every chapter is kind of written in that sense. And so these defiers, who are sort of the personifications of all of the things that are kind of behind the scenes in the War Machine, the Iron Kingdom's world, each kind of personify different things. So the ones that are out so far are the Dreamer and the Heretic, and of course the Old Witch herself. And the Old Witch is a huge battle NG. She's like built up Scrapjack to the point where it's his house now. It's actually the Baba Yaga from ancient Slavic myth, where it's this old woman riding this big bird-legged house, and it's really neat because her whole thing is she's woken them up because she's constantly trying to save the world, and not just save the world as in like save the people in the world. She's trying to turn the clock of existence back, and that's the neat thing about this book, is it actually kind of makes everything going on in the Iron Kingdoms and all of the whole stories that have been happening that are so big and like magnificent seem really insignificant. Because her thing is she's trying to save existence. And she's kind of protected Khador for a long time as part of doing that, but she's responsible for all kinds of things that have happened, like the slaying of the Dragon Father, like all of the things that have kind of happened over time. She's always had some kind of a hand in meddling and all that stuff, and now she's basically just fed up of always winding the clock back, and so she's unleashed these Defiers into the world to do her work and to try and do the things to keep the clock turning. And so the Heretic is one of the first ones. He's one of the ones that turns against all of the gods. There's the Dreamer, who's a little kid who again does dreams. And you can see here there's like dreams and phantasms. There's different types of monsters that are in the Grymmkins. There's like imps and dreams and all sorts of stuff. And my favorite one actually is the Wanderer. Because I'm reading through his cards now in War Room. He's so different as a warlock. He doesn't really hurt anything. He just moves pieces around constantly, and you can never stop him from moving pieces. So this is a really interesting book because it's very different from the War Machine Hordes factions that we've seen so far. The style is incredibly different. It has it's dark, but it's lighthearted at the same time. There's a very fairy tale kind of feel to it. And it feels like there's a very significant like cognitive decision to rebrand how people look at this Iron Kingdoms universe. And there's been a lot of talk about how it's emulating other sort of like whimsy sort of stuff, like games like Malifaux or Wolsung or Twisted, which is a new one. There's actually a whole bunch of games out here that kind of hit these same like tones and themes. But I'm okay with that. One, because it's drawing on the mythology of Iron Kingdoms itself. Like, it's drawing on mythology that already exists. Like, look at this page. Like, this page would not be in any other faction book. It's just a crazy collection of pictures and photographs. There's like an oldie-timey portrait of a man here with a pumpkin head. Like, it doesn't feel like an Iron Kingdoms book at all. And it's very different from being an old War Machine faction book. And the second thing is the actual rules that are in the book. So there's only, if you get to the rules and scenarios part, the first 113 pages are background. So it's all just story and background and stuff that like you want to know about the Grymmkin basically, but not told in like a linear narrative, not told like a history book like the other ones were written, but written like a storybook, like a little kid's storybook. And then the next part is the rules and scenarios. So how do they operate differently in the game? So things like Arcanas, which are their feats. They don't have feats like traditional feats. They have Arcana cards. And the Arcanas are played at any time during a game in accordance with the rules of the card. So basically, if something happens during the game, you can play an Arcana card. And there's two kinds. There's trumps and regular ones. And each Grymmkin Warlock will have one trump card that can be assigned to only that Warlock. And the reigning ones can be assigned to any Warlock. Before either player's deployment starts the game, a Grymmkin player assigns each of his Warlocks 3 Arcana cards and reveals those trump cards to their opponent. And one of these 3 cards must be the Warlock's trump card. The other 2 can be any non-trump cards that they have. So it's neat because you basically design your own feat, but your feat is timed based on events in the game. So they're not quite necessarily, they're not as overtly powerful as the feat, but they're supposed to represent the fact that these guys actually control the world around you. They make things happen in like the world around you. And they shift the way that the world works, which I think is really neat. And you can't duplicate them, so you can't double down on any of them. So they have to be different. Then there's a theme force. Theme forces are in all the force books so far. There's a Dark Menagerie, which is like a focused on like gremlins and gremlin stuff, which is kind of neat. There's all kinds of gremlins in the game. And there's another one called Bump in the Night, which is basically like put around like the weird Witchwood solos, the Lord Longfellow, the Imp solos, all the Grymmkin units, and it basically gives you Murder of Crows units, and they all gain ambush. So yeah, warrior models in the game Rise. Model with Rise is knocked down at the beginning of the game. They always stand up. It looks pretty powerful, and it kind of restricts what you can take. And then there's State of War, which is the Defier stuff. So this is where the book really changes from a War Machine book, and it almost feels like an Age of Sigmar book. So the State of War thing is all about the different magical, mystical terrain types that exist around each of the Defiers. And you don't have to use them, but they're used extensively later on in the campaign missions that are in this book. And that's the other thing that's really different, is there's a bunch of linked narrative campaign missions that don't even have to include the Grymmkin. They can be played with anybody, but that feature either the scenarios are about telling the story of the Grymmkin or the Grymmkin themselves as like a narrative, as like an escalation thing. And what they do is they basically make it so that the world is being shifted by a certain one of the Defiers. So automatically, if one of the Defiers is on the table, then you would roll on their table. So like, let's say for instance, the child is on the table. You would roll a d6, and each of your opponents would pick pieces of terrain going back and forth after terrain deployment, and see if they get replaced by these magical pieces of terrain. Mischievous Woods, so place a forest terrain feature. When a non-Grymmkin model begins activation in the Mischievous Woods, roll a d3. On a 1, the model suffers -2 speed. On a 2, they get -2 attack rolls. On a 3, it suffers -2 to damage rolls. On a 4, 5, 6, nothing happens. So it's neat because like it just makes it now that the trees are full of like imps and things that are like disturbing the fighters. Flaming forests. In the presence of a child, the forest bursts into unnatural flames. These looking flames burn anything that passes the trees. Models entering and ending the activation of the flaming forest gain fire as a continuous effect, and that can actually be really beneficial for some armies and really terrible for other armies. And then Rage Cloud, a terrible red mist descends on this child when she's at her most furious. Effects, place a 4-inch AoE template. Warrior models begin their activation of Rage Cloud, gain +2 strength and speed for 1 round. So it's like a cloud of buffs just sitting on the table. And obviously these aren't designed for like tournament play, but really nothing in this book except for the theme forces are, and like explaining the Arcana cards. The rest of this book is like, is just scenarios. So the first scenario is a 4-player scenario, which is just Grymmkin in the fog, and it doesn't have to feature Grymmkin at all. It's just a big fog cloud, which is basically a 12-inch zone where everyone inside gets concealment, and you're trying to draw the Grymmkin out because all the factions are trying to study them or like figure out what they are, and you score points by being inside the cloud each turn. And you only play with a 25-point army, which is really cool because you can play with like a starter set and like a couple of models. There's the 2-player scenario, Harvest the Wicked, like with special models like Tarnished Souls. And then you can create Grymmkin during the game. And there's a scenario campaign, the Baron's Balance Due. So there's a Baron basically who's like made some kind of deal with the Grymmkin, with one of the Defiers. And the Grymmkin are coming to like get their revenge, get their due basically, because he's basically defied them. He said like, I'm not paying you for whatever you've done. It's kind of like a Rumpelstiltskin thing. And yeah, the first one's a skirmish with town guards, breaking and entering, the Baron revealed. And it's just 3 scenarios that you play in a row and there's even a stat card for the Baron at the end of it all. And he's just a random war machine guy. He could be from any faction, where at the end of the whole thing, the Baron's basically he's being held accountable for what's happening. And what's neat is some of them are asymmetrical. It's like some of them feature like smaller and larger forces. So like the first one, the Town Guards one, you take a 15-point Grymmkin army, right? So you take an army that's led by a Grymmkin Defier, and then you get to play, you take a 50-point War Machine army with no Warcaster. It can't be any kind of, there's no battle group stuff. It's just units basically, because you're fighting the Town Guard. So like you're fighting with units, and they're fighting with a Warlock, and having to like fend off all the magic and stuff like by yourself. So I'm pretty stoked about it. It seems really neat. My buddy Jay commented on my Facebook page actually earlier when I posted a photo of this. This is the kind of thing that would get him back into War Machine. And I'm kind of excited about it because it's such a neat world, and I think it really benefits from more ways of playing it. And I really hope that when this book is out, people don't just like look at it for the theme force, or even just don't buy it because all it is a theme force because they think that's already in War Room and they don't need it. It's a really cool just like piece of art. Like there's all kinds of neat stuff in the box, and the scenarios and stuff are a really nice added value thing. Now, it has no stat cards in it. Actually, sorry, I'm lying. It has 1 stat card in it, but it's been put in as a joke, and it's the stat card for the little impy guys, the gremlins. And the reason it's a joke is they've scribbled all over it in pen to change all their stats. So this is the only page that's like a traditional like War Machine entry, and basically the gremlins have like drawn all over it. So their stats are speed 99, strength 2000, mat 200, rat 42, def 130, and their armor 512, which is just hilarious. And it's for the Angry Grymmkin Swarm. And like I think that's really neat, because it actually kind of almost makes fun of the old Force books and having stats and stuff in them. And it's a neat sort of like sending off of the way the Force books used to be. So I'm pretty jazzed about it. I think it's cool that like they're trying something really different, and I hope it catches on, because I would love to see more Force books like this for some of the minor factions. Like, I think if the Cephalix had a book like this when they first came out, and I would love to see them do a book like this for the Cephalix. I think that'd be a fantastic idea, is if they did a book like this for the Cephalix, you would have had a very different like understanding of them, and it could have introduced a really cool narrative, because the Cephalix are so different from all the other War Machine factions. Like, they're not just a subset of mercenaries, they're an entirely different way of almost playing War Machine a little bit. And I think it's worthwhile exploring that, and the book seemed to be like a really good way of doing that. So I'm pretty stoked about it. So I'm going to go to the chat now and see what people are talking about. And we'll take some questions. We got Anthony Lee saying hi. Paul Giamatti saying, actually made it live. Yes, you did. Benoit saying hello. Just finished priming some Wrath of Kings in the paints. Quinn saying hi. Fear School saying, love your show. Keep the good work. Thanks, man. And then Tobek saying, whoop, whoop. Got here for the live show. Randy St. Denis saying, g'day. Who else we got? 12 Neef, hey from Brooklyn. Dan Harris saying, what's up? Andre Tanguay saying, when is a whole new war coming back? A whole new war has been kind of like, not really like subsumed, but people got really excited about playing 40k. And in fact, even like the War Machine nights, I've been told that some of the local stores have just become 40k nights. So even like the normal amount of 40k or War Machine that I've been playing has kind of been reduced by just how popular that launch was for the new 40k. It'll definitely come back. I'm actually working on some Retribution of Cyrus stuff right now, which is kind of neat. And I'm working on a couple more pieces for my Khador army. I've got the Khador Grey Lord Manowar guy that I get painted for my Khador army to go hang out with Big B. And I think I want a second one because they're pretty awesome. So yeah, I'm pretty stoked about that. CJ Phoenix says, hey all. Ivor says, hi from Birmingham, UK. Dan says, Brum in the house. Kane Rodriguez says, hello. Cal Radford says, hey Ash, how's it going? Watching from Alberta. Daniel Nixon says, are those still around? I don't know what we're talking about. Tobek says, Knives and Lovecraftian. Yes, I think that was probably when I was showing off the book and showing how it was kind of made like almost a madman's diary about Grymmkin, which is pretty sweet. So I'm going to start building actually the Grymmkin Skin and Moans. So he's a heavy war beast, and he's actually, taking him in the box, he is huge. I looked at the card for him, and he's kind of neat. So his whole jam is, he's basically a giant skinless monster. So sort of like, what was that cartoon I really liked? Attack on Titan. Skinless giant. And all of his clothing is made out of the skin that's torn off of his victims. But he's like a huge knock-kneed. So like, this is a 50 mil base. You can kind of see how tall he is. Like, he's enormous. Dude. He's in the hard rustic that a lot of recent stuff's been cast in. So he's not in a traditional GW style hard plastic. He's in a resin plastic, which is fine. He's push fit, so I don't know you'd be able to pose him very well, because if you look at like his shoulder joint, it's very long, so his arm kind of just sits flush against him, and I don't think I'm going to be able to move it around very much. So it's just kind of like sitting down by his side once you push it together, whoop, like that, and there's not a lot of give basically for moving it around. But the cast is nice and clean. There's almost no mold lines. There's a bit of flashing from where he came out of the mold. The blades are nice and straight, which is cool. And like I said, relatively clean. There's like really nothing for me to clean off. This is gonna be a very fast model to build. His legs are nice and clean. Yeah, no, everything looks good. Everything looks super good. There's a little bit of a mold line on his legs here, but other than that, he is a very quick model to build, I think. I have super glue in here. Yes, I do. Just double checking everything. I actually need to paint them in my little toolbox over here. But this guy's a heavy. He's 16 points, I think. And he starts off pretty good. Like, for a heavy, for 16 points, I mean, I compare everything in War Machine to Juggernauts, which are 12 points, and have a Power Plus Strength 19 axe and Mat 7. He has Mat 7. He's Speed 5, which is nice. He's relatively quick, and he has Reach. And he has 2 initials, both that are Strength 16. His big jam, though, is that as he kills guys, he powers up because he takes corpse tokens. He can spend corpse tokens either for D3 regen, but he is a war beast, so you can force him to regen as well by spending Fury during the maintenance phase, which is nice. So the really cool thing about war beasts in general, and one of the things that makes them great compared to warjacks, as long as they have 3 boxes left, they're completely healthy. Right, so as long as their body, mind, and spirit all have 1 box remaining, and you can typically spend to do that during the phase if you need to. You can always have them be attacking at like full vitality. Now he can spend a corpse marker to take a D3 regen as well if he needs to, or you can just force him to heal 1. The really cool thing is this guy gains +1 to his strength and armor for every corpse marker that he has. So if he's got 2 reach initials at Mat 7 that are strength 16, when he's got his maximum of 3 corpse markers on him, he has 2 initial 19s with reach. And he's armor 19. He's only armor 16 otherwise because he's just wearing a skin coat, right? So he's he starts off a little squishy, but if you send him into a unit and you get him a couple of kills, he will very quickly ramp up. And because he's relatively quick too, I think he's a pretty good candidate for trample. I can't remember. I think his blades are actually only POW 4, so I think because he's a heavy, I think he's strength 12 base, which will typically kill most guys during a trample. And that's a good way to get him some quick. If you can get a trample lined up, that's a good way to get him some quick corpse markers and get him into the fight. Let me just see. I'm gonna pull up Worm right now and actually pull a stat card in front of me. I was having a little trouble with Worm today. It was being funny with the cards. Let me just see if it still is. Hordes, Grymmkin, Creates, Warlock. So I'm gonna take the King of Nothing because he's hilarious. And I can look at cards. And the art for the whatchamacallit. Oh, he's only 15 points, yeah. See, the art's not showing. You just see the stat card almost blank. But yeah, no, he's Def 13, Arm 16, Mat 7, Speed 5. And he's Strength 10, actually. Sorry, he's Power 6 on his blade. So he's not the hardest hitter during a trample, but that would be a quick way to get some tokens onto him. Of course, that first exchange he goes into, he has 4 Fury. So if you force him 1, or if you got somebody who gives him free charges, he can get in there and make potentially 6 attacks with his 2 initials. Plus, he can go in and make more with his 4 Fury as well. So he is no slouch in melee. He's also got Lurker, which gives him Pathfinder and Bushwhack, which is kind of cool because Bushwhack means that if he starts engaged, he can kill a couple guys and then advance. So he can advance backwards after a fight and get himself somewhere safe so that he can't be attacked himself because he is a bit squishy. So he's almost a good contender to like soak a charge or to be just behind something when it's getting charged. And that means that like his sort of like hit and run potential is pretty high. It's only 1 to do that too in itself, which could actually be really handy for your warlocks too, because they could then do things like fight and run away afterwards after they kill somebody. Bushwhack is a neat ability, and being able to take Bushwhack in your Warcaster is super duper neat. So let's see what else is in here. Nathan Yakic says, would you recommend getting the book even if you don't plan on playing the faction? I think I would, because of the scenarios. Like I said, the scenarios seem to be driven around introducing the Grymmkin, and you don't necessarily have, unless it's the three scenario campaign, the other scenarios don't seem to require you to play Grymmkin. They just let you experience all the Grymmkin like craziness, like the terrain effects and like the sort of like weird oddball stuff that happens when you play Grymmkin without doing it. So I was actually planning on playing through those scenarios. If Jay does pick up the faction, what we'll probably end up doing is play through the I think that would be a cool idea. What else we got? Some of these comments are hilarious. I love the Batman and the Suicide Squad miniature game, says Kenny Rodriguez. Yes, man, they look super cool. I am stoked about them as well. And they are a, whatchamacallit, a thing that actually is getting a bit popular locally. There's some guys doing they're starting to do a campaign, a little campaign for the, is the audio back on? Okay, yeah, good. I think I bumped the mute button on my whatchamacallit. I looked down and it was flashing. I bumped the mute button on my my mic again, and it cut it for just a second. But I looked down and it was flashing, so I turned it back on. There's a bunch of guys locally actually doing a DCU little like league, so it actually will probably be getting popular, getting played around here again in the next little while, which should be cool. What else we got? Ash, how long do we see some Inquisitor games on Throwback Thursday? I think we just need to get people excited about it. Like, I will happily play Inquisitor. I have a bunch of painted Inquisitor stuff. It's more a matter of fact of like, when I do those games, it's because someone else is interested, right? Like, having an opponent is usually the catalyst for me getting to like a Throwback Thursday game. So like just today, you saw Warhammer Quest go up, and that's because Danny was super jazzed about Warhammer Quest, and he decided to bring in a painted Warhammer Quest, and so we actually played, like, there's 2 more missions. We played through 3 of the missions from Warhammer Quest that day, and you'll be able to see them super soon. So, like, they'll come out every 2 weeks for the next little while. So Inquisitor is something that, like, I'd love to do. It does require a bit of, like, specialist training and stuff, but I have tons of, like, miniatures painted already, so it wouldn't be hard if someone had a bunch of interest to play a quick, like, little Inquisitor, like a little 3-game narrative where there's, like, a showdown between a bunch of characters and Inquisitor. It'd be easy to do. Paul G. Mack says, hey, Ash, what are your criticisms you have for War Machine Hordes in general, and how would you improve it? I don't have a lot of criticisms for the game. I think the game's great. The game plays really well. Like, the 3rd edition of the game, I think, has hit a good balance of mixing the big guys, so, like, the things like the Warjacks and the War Beasts with the infantry. They've kind of hot-fixed it a bit with the new edition of Steamroller, so the newest Steamroller changing up the way that what you play for, basically, and requiring you to take a mix of stuff to be able to complete certain objectives. I think was a good like push, because obviously what happens with most games that really focus on competitive play is as soon as something's good, people take a million of them, and they push the game into weird directions. There's what's called the law of the law of secondary unintended consequences, where you do something to make something good that wasn't necessarily good before, but then people try to take just that and they spam something, and the game becomes pushed like a pendulum into weird directions. And I think what they've done is they've hit a good balance now of making everything useful, and you're trying to toolbox what the best things are to take, and by making it so that nothing is necessarily bad, right? Nothing's bad at fulfilling any given role. You make it so that lists become more interesting, because people take a sprinkling of this and a sprinkling of that to try it out, and it's harder to pin down what one good list is when SKUs become ineffective. So I think that's going to be that's been good so far. I don't typically have any criticisms of games, because games are as fun as the people that play them. I do find that competitive communities can become a bit isolationist. And I think that's not a problem that Privateer Press can address. All they can do is try and encourage people to play the game a different way. And I think the Grymmkin book is a good example of them being aware of that, and also trying to get themselves opportunities for people to try to play the game in different styles. Because the more that people start to believe that there's a right way to play the game, and that they should only play it that one way. So, for instance, 75-point War Machine games, you don't only play War Machine, you only play Steamroller missions, blah blah blah. And I've encountered that. I've encountered when I came back to Canada, I kind of like, I was introduced to the War Machine community in Ontario, and I had a very different mindset about playing War Machine than they did, and there was a lot of friction about how to do it. That there was a right and wrong way, and it became very hard to get people organized and doing things differently. So that was a bit hard, and I think that's something that Privateer is probably struggling with right now, is that communities that isolate themselves don't tend to grow very much. And of course, for a company, that's bad, because you want your communities to grow, because then they're buying things. New people are coming in, trying it for the first time. and they obviously want that to be something that happens. So there's Skin and Moans. He's all built. Yeah, he's all done. He's huge. Like, he's absolutely enormous. I don't know if I have anything to compare him to. Here's a glue. You can see how big he is. He's probably 5 inches tall. Definitely looks like a heavy. And I would definitely try him out because I think he has all the things I like in a war beast. He's a bit fun to use because he's different. He's relatively quick and he can scale. He can get better if I play right. So I would definitely take a bunch of those in an army. What else we got? Radu Lycan says, "Hey Ash," that was the Inquisitor question. Big Daddy says, "Hey Ash, you make me moist." Well, that's exciting. Thank you so much for saying that. Radu Lycan says, "Hey Big Daddy, if only we could like chat posts." You guys are awful. Miso says, "What's the quality of the fluff like in the comparison to other books? Is it better written, do you think?" I can't tell you if it's better written. I've probably read about a third of it so far. It's definitely more engaging because you're getting it in snippets. And I found, so one of the great things about old GW books, and I mean really old GW books, was they didn't tend to have a dedicated fluff section. What you got is you got the fluff kind of like pieced in through these snippets. We used to call them gray boxes. You have the gray box where there's like a little story or a little bit of like like information or someone telling a story. And you tend to see it from the point of view of people who are outside or inside of it, not a sort of like dry historical rendition. So I think it's more engaging because of that, because you're learning it from the point of view of someone who's experiencing the Grymmkin or someone who's telling the story of a Grymmkin. You're not just reading a textbook. Does that make sense? It's a little less textbook and a little more storytelling. And I personally respond really well to that. Some people might not. But it's really refreshing because it's so different. So that book is the way it's been written tends to attract people like me, because what I want is I want little pieces of the story and I want my imagination to fill in the rest, right? So if I make a Grymmkin army at some point, what I really want is I want to be inspired to build my army with little bits of information, but I want enough holes in the cheese, right, that my imagination can fill up, where I feel like when I make the army, I've got my personal Grymmkin army, right, where I'm telling my corner of that story. And I've always felt like when games start to jump the shark, it's when they try and explain everything. You get what I call the George Lucasism of the prequels, where he tries to explain every little bit of Star Wars in 3 movies, and by the end of it, you're just like, I didn't want to know any of this stuff. I was okay with it being a mystery. You're like, it's better if it is a mystery, because then you're not trapped in facts. Like you can't go back after you say it is this way or it isn't that way. Leave it mysterious. Leave it open to interpretation. Let people interpret things visually as opposed to just telling them exactly how it is. I think that's a better storytelling way of doing things, because then you have, and War Machine players joke about design space, but you have writing space then, because you're leaving things open to interpretation, and things can be one way or the other. And I think some of the great mysteries in 40K are written intentionally like that, where there are these wonderful mysteries, and you can have your own opinion on what is what and how things go. And when you make your army, you have your collection of models, you can reflect it in that. And from a company's point of view, that's great, because that inspires the creative people to buy models and to tell their own stories. So I think that's good. What's the quality of the fluff like? CJ Phoenix says the Grymmkin sound like they should be in Malifaux. It's interesting because they predate Malifaux by years. Because I think the first book of the Monsternomicon is, so Privateer Press launched War Machine in 2003. The Iron Kingdoms RPGs were probably a few years before that. It's like 2001, 2000, something like that. Because they were first their own RPG system, and then they were an expansion for, I think, the open source D&D, and then I think they went back to their own system. They're their own system again now, because I have some of the RPG books that I bought just for background stuff, but they well predate Malifaux, like by years, and they're very much entrenched in that sort of like that Eastern European fairy tale world. So ironic. It's just like, I think it's that comment of, I think people are going to make that association, but it's like saying that Games Workshop ripped off StarCraft, or like, it's just not, it's from the point of view of people that only that only know things from a certain point on, it might look like that, but if you've seen the whole story, then it definitely is not the case. Blade Wolf 9 says, I have a feeling the Dreadrots are going to be used often, and they are going to be a pain against my circle unless I go shooty. Fair enough. I don't know. Wargamer Online says, hey, Scott Kilwell says, played a few games this weekend. Plays pretty smooth. It was a lot of fun. Ivor Cogdell says, any tips for running a Mordheim Wilderness solo? Dwarves versus Beastmen versus Zombies? I don't know. Do you mean like running the Wilderness campaign by yourself? So I have some experience. There used to be an old mailing list back when mailing lists were a thing, and this is going to make me sound old, but mailing lists used to be like your social network almost. So I remember belonging to tons of mailing lists in like the 90s that were interested in wargaming, and the whole idea of a mailing list was it was almost like being part of Facebook. And people who were all part of this group mailing list, it was like being in a group in Facebook. They would start topics, and then they would just reply to these topics, and you get these big long threads of people responding and talking to each other. And I remember one from a Mordheim group that was about how do you play the game solo, and they came up with just basically a flowchart for behavior. So if you want to play any war game solo, you could probably do this. It works better with small skirmish size games, like less than 10 models. And it was just an if, yes, then flowchart, you know what I mean? So like when a model would behave on the enemy side, is it armed with a melee weapon? Yes. Can it see someone? Yes. Then it moves as fast as possible to closest target. Does the person it can see have a gun? Yes. Then it moves as close as possible while maintaining cover. Stuff like that. And it's just a logic chart basically for how does the enemy behave while you play the game. And it would let you play the game solo. So if you want to do that, take an hour and sit down and then just write flowcharts for a bunch of different unit types, generic unit types from Mordheim. Like, is it an animal? Is it a melee fighter? Is it a shooter? Is it a monster? And then just the logic progress of what would it do in any given situation. And they don't have to be hard and fast, you know what I mean? Because the scenario might change what you would want them to do if you were the bad guy. But that would let you have a reference sheet, basically, to not feel like you're playing against yourself. And that would be it. I would just do that. So if I wanted to play a solo game of anything, Mordheim, you're basically just writing what like the operation program is for like Gene Stealers and Space Hulk. Like, what do they do if given whatever? You know what I mean? So yeah, I would do that and give it a go, because then you can play games by yourself and still feel like you're actually playing a game and not feel like you're just playing against your own brain. Daniel Nixon says, enjoying the show, working on my Silver Tower set, enjoyed the video and let's play. Yeah, I mean, it was super fun. I enjoyed Silver Tower way more than I thought I was going to. I think because I was surprised by the Choose Your Adventure book. That was my favorite thing about it. The fact that there was an RPG element where you had to make some decision making in the game and there could be random consequences. I thought was so cool. I thought that was the neatest part. And it really drew me into the game when I didn't think I was going to enjoy it that much, because I wasn't so into the fact that there wasn't a huge post game. There wasn't a dungeon master. It did a really good job of mimicking old Choose Your Own Adventure games, but with like a visual element. And it felt like I was visually playing a fighting fantasy novel, and that totally I was in. I was totally in at that point. I'd like to pick up the second one and give it a go, because it looks really fun. I don't know when we'll get to that, or even paint up my original just to show guys the differences, but I think it would be super great. Ivor Cardell says paint and terrain. Scott Kidwell says I should be assembling the Wanderer and King of Nothing. Well, then you should go do that. Anthony Lee says, hey Ash, as someone who doesn't play Infinity, I've been loving your Wotan bat reps. I just need to know what's a Gauzy and why do you hate them so much? So it's funny because we were just talking about competitive play and how you take a lot of something because it's really good. Owen, who's one of my primary Infinity buddy, you know what I mean, and we've probably played more Infinity against each other than anybody else. His Hack-a-Slum army, he keyed into what the really good, powerful units are in that army very early on. And Mutawa Gazis are available in 2 of the 3, like the generic build and then one of the sectorial builds. And for the point cost that they have, they are equipped with an incredible array of options, like an absolutely incredible array of options. They have a chain rifle, which is just a big 10-inch large flamer, basically, a big template weapon. They have an Emirat, which is that, but it causes immobilization against heavy infantry and tags and remotes, which is amazing. It's basically an EM2 flamethrower, which should be worth an insane amount of points because it's so effective. And it isolates too because it just shuts everything off. It has a jammer, and it's the only thing in the game that has a jammer. And the jammer might be the most powerful piece of tech in the game because it's not a hacking device. It is a comms equipment piece, which means hackers can affect it and turn it off. But it doesn't require line of sight. It can be used in ARO, and it means that they can run within 8 inches of you in idle line of sight, which is what most models want to do. And they have tons of orders because they're impetuous regular, so they get 2 orders instead of 1 normally. But they can't give the order to anybody else, which seems like a drawback. But we're talking about a guy who's 5 points in a 300-point game. And they can just shut off your army. So if they can, and they have smoke grenades, sorry, the last bit. And they have a pistol and other things too. Oh, and they're dogged, which means that if they take a wound, you have to wound them again. They don't have an unconscious level. They have to take another wound before they die. And then they automatically die at the end of the phase. So they can almost always blitz to where they want to be if you're just willing to keep feeding them orders to cause a bunch of havoc. So they're very durable for what they are for the point cost. They have an incredible willpower of 15, which means that because they're using a technical weapon, which is a jammer, they have a very good chance. They have a 75% success rate on a check, which opposed is very high as well. And they're 5 points. So to take a maximum allotment of them, which is 4 of them, costs 20 of your 300 points. So less than 10% of your army, and you have 4 pieces of models, basically, that your opponent absolutely has to deal with. And they're not frustrating because they're really good at killing things. They're frustrating because without dealing with them, they will absorb an insane amount of orders in your army. And they can turn off key pieces very efficiently because all they have to do is get within 8 inches of you, or even just get within 8 inches of where you need to go. And without spending the orders to go and kill them, which can be very painful as well because they're like ticks because they have dogged. You have to kill them dead before they're not affecting where you need to be. They're super effective at what they do. And I played against them a ton. And so the reason that they're super annoying is he'll always, if he's playing competitive, he's playing to win, he'll always take 4 if he can. And he'll always use them incredibly effectively, which is to just jam them as far forward as he can for at least 2, save 2 for the next turn. And what it does is it delays everything your army needs to do for 2 turns without even killing anything. And so they're frustrating to play against because they're not really fighting you. They're just passively sucking away all of your ability to be effective in the game. And I think they're very undercosted for what they do. If they were 5 points in almost any other army, they would have half of the equipment they have. They wouldn't have nearly the equipment they have. I would say if they doubled in point cost, I'd be okay with them. Or if the jammer couldn't be used in the arrow, I'd be okay with them. Either one of those 2 things, and they'd be fine. That's my short lesson on Gauzys, because they're amazing. Tobek says, do you need to wash that resin? I've never played with that stuff. I would still wash it. I'll probably just give it a quick bath in some dish detergent and a little scrub with a toothbrush and then just pat dry it before I prime it. I've never really had a problem priming this stuff, but you can never be too safe with resin. You want to make sure any mold release that's on them gets off, because the one time you do get a lot of mold release on it and your primer starts to fall off, you'll be annoyed. Daniel Nixon says, I was talking about the Cephalix faction and I'd never seen anything about them. Yeah, well, that's it. They came out as kind of a splash towards the end of 2nd edition War Machine, or Mark II rather. And they didn't get a whole bunch of stuff. I don't know why. They got a bunch. I think they sold okay, but then they're just kind of this little baby mini faction within Mercenaries. And I think that a book like this for them would have been super cool. Same with the Convergence of Syrinx, the weird clockwork people. What else we got? Timberry, I've never had a problem. I mean, you're probably safe. I'm just paranoid, so I always wash stuff. Brutalitop says, what I do, chat? Sorry I'm late. Walter says, what's up? Late, that's me. Timberry says, anyone else having a problem with the feed? Old Witch 2 /3 for Cater also has no artwork. Yeah, I think it's probably just an update thing. They'll probably update the cards in War Room eventually so that all the new Old Witch cards, because there's a Khador version of her as well. There's the Warlock version for Grymmkin. There's going to be a new Khador version, because she'll be able to be used as both, which is cool. Michael Zajsek says, I'm gonna apologize for butchering that. If you've not done it, try updating the War Machine app from the store. That might fix the picture problems to the Grymmkin. I should try that. Yeah, I haven't done that yet. Scott Kidwell, Cephalix seems to run a lot of dude spam. Kamui Shiro says, hey Ash, hey man. David Hafner says, Ash, if you download and update the War Room, it'll fix the bike background issue. Had the same problem over the weekend. Okay, cool. Who else is here? Oh, geez. Ash, possibly any game streams on the horizon, possibly with Owen on, like, SAS. Salt and Sanctuary? I mean, maybe. I don't We'd have to have time to, like, talking about video game streams. We have to have time to actually do that together. I mean, it's possible. They're so impromptu, right? It's usually just, like, I'll be sitting at home, the kids will be in bed, I don't have anything to paint, and I'll start, like, screwing around on Steam, and then if he's on Steam, I'll be like, hey, do you want to play something? Or if he's in the middle of streaming something else, like, we never plan stuff like that. It would probably just happen. Ben Davis says he's here. Aaron Seach says, hey Ash, get greetings from Wisconsin, the land of beer and cheese. I think we will see a reboxing or remake of Battlefleet Gothic. I think we'll probably wait. I wouldn't really answer that until after Adeptus Titanicus comes out from Forge World, because I think how well that does is going to dictate if you start seeing other scale games get made by GW. Because it's a lot to invest in a whole new scale. Like, the one lesson GW learned a lot from Specialist games is, if a game requires a whole new selection of scenery and it can't mix with your existing armies, it's not as sound an investment, because people like buying miniatures they can use in their armies that already exist, or just add to their 28 mil collections. Inquisitor's a great example of that. If Inquisitor had been 28 mil, it might have been one of the most successful games you've ever made, like, because I would be buying the models just to put in their 40k armies, but it was in 54 mil. So Gothic again is one of those games where it's in a funny scale, and Dreadfleet being a board game, not a war game that was standalone, may have made people nervous about that. So I think you'll see them test the waters with this new Adeptus Titanicus game, and if it goes well, then you might see them explore something like BFG. Daniel Frame says, alright man, greetings from Glasgow. Have you seen the new boxes for Gen Con and beyond? Yes, the Beyond boxes I have. I actually posted on my Facebook page last week during the weekend, and they look pretty rad. I think it's a great idea. It's funny, I had a quick chat with Carlos at Adepticon this year, because we were both super busy. He was manning the booth with the Arsenal guys, and I was manning the Austria booth, and we never really had time to connect. We just bumped into each other in the hall, and we had a quick chat. And one of the things I was talking about with him was, one of the things I really like being able to do when I play Infinity is point to boxes and just say, like, hey, I just played this game with blah. And I loved the new Toha Army box, because I was just able to play a list. It was a 300-point list, and show it to people afterwards and say, hey, this is the box your retailer can get you, and you can play with this army. Because they're really well thought out for the most part, and they tend to play pretty well. Like, they're lists I would play. There was, just this weekend, actually, I played a game with Steve from Mini Wargaming, and we played the Bostria Challenge list, which was, he bought 2 blisters in a box. He bought a Raiden with a rocket launcher. He bought a Shaolin box. He bought some other box. It was a Shaolin, a Raiden, and the box of the 2 big base remotes, the Ludan and the Rishi. And he added them to his army, and it made a 300-point army out of the Ice Storm box, and it was like a legit little army. Like, he's not played a lot of Infinity, so I was kind of walking him through, like, what the jobs were for everybody in the army list. But looking at the army, I would totally play that army list. It's a sound little army. It's got everything, all the tools it needs to do the job. And these Beyond boxes seem like they're kind of the same thing. So my next plan, what I was talking about with Carlos, was I really like making content where I feel like you guys, over at Corvus Belly, I get to show off stuff, and people can it's not complicated for people to go and enjoy it too, right? So if you see an army that I play with in the game, you guys can just go and buy a box or like 2 boxes and know exactly what it is you're playing with. And Infinity is one of those games that because it's so crunchy, to say you need X model from you need to buy a whole box to just get this one model, or a whole box to get that other model. Those armies can be really effective, and you'll see me play like in tournaments and stuff. When I play Owen, sometimes I'll play those lists where it's like I'm picking and choosing really key models to play like a really competitive list. But you can make very effective lists, and these 300 point boxes are very effective in and of themselves. So the next thing I'm going to do is I have the Aleph box. And I'm actually going to make the 300-point army from the Aleph box. It comes with Pensathilla. It's the Steel Phalanx box, sorry. Pensathilla, it comes with an Agama Marksman. It comes with a bunch of Myrmidons, Myrmidon Officer, Phoenix, Ajax, and a Myrmidon Spitfire. I'm just going to paint that box and play a whole bunch with it. And it's cool because it's a 10... I think it's only 10 models. Yeah, it's only 10 models. It's a 300-point list. It's super compact. It's going to get me painting my Aleph stuff that I've had sitting on a shelf forever. And I'm really jazzed to give it a go because there's new Aleph stuff that looks really cool, and I really like the idea of playing with a box you guys can see me play with, and then if you were to go pick up that box too, just go play with it. So you will definitely see me using one of those boxes, and then when those boxes come out, I'm hoping Carlos and the guys do some scenarios around them too, like they did with Ice Storm and with Red Veil, where you can play through some games, just like a specialist mission, like a Direfo style thing. Because if so, then of course what I'll do is Owen and I'll just split them, right? We'll just do the same thing we usually do, where like he'll paint the Nomads and I'll paint the Pano from the one box, and then we'll play through those missions, and then I'll paint the Yu Ching and he'll paint the Hack, and we'll split them and go through again. Because it's just fun to play, and it's a great excuse to paint up the new models. Matthew Dami says, how do you feel about 4th Ed Flames of War? It looks good. The plastics are really nice. It's really cool to see them going and investing in plastic models for like their tanks and their infantry and stuff like that. It's still Flames of War. It hasn't changed that much that like it's very different, you know. I'll probably pick up the rulebook at some point because I have a huge painted Flames of War army for my Germans, and a lot of unpainted stuff I could get to and finally paint to play some games. But again, it's all about like opponents. If you want to play it, then I'll play it. John Cedar, hey Ash, what about converting Inquisitor 25 mil? Oh yeah, it's been, I've seen tons of people doing it. There's Inquisitor and 28 mil all over the place. It's a whole movement actually that's tied in with the Blanchitsu stuff too. There's the boys that do John's little get together at Warhammer World where they play like it's a super modified version of Inquisitor though. It's almost not even the same game because they make up rules on the fly just to do what feels right almost, which I think is wonderful. I think that is the way you play a game where the thing is about loving the feeling of the miniatures and the feeling of the background and stuff. The rules don't matter. Like just play with whatever you want, and even just making up rules as you go is almost as fun. Micah Hundley says you should do a top 5 or top 10 minigame video. That's hard for me though because to do a top 5 or top 10 game, miniature games fall into so many subsets that like I would need to do. I mean, it's not a bad idea, but I would need to do them by classification. I would need to do like a top 5 all-time rank and flank games, top 5 all-time company level sci-fi games, you know, top 5 all-time skirmish warband games. It's hard to say like what those are because, and again, it's also suggested because based on taste, like it's all based on like what you like too, that the setting's more important almost than the game itself. It would all be my personal opinion, and I'd feel bad because like I would never be able to pick, I think, something that would actually apply to be like right for everybody. Oh, what else we got? David Hafner says, how would you compare putting him together? Oh, geez, hang on. I've got a delivery here. I'll be right back. Let me go get the door. Whoop. I guess you guys are getting some kind of unboxing too, because I don't even know what's in this box. It just showed up. UPS just showed up with a random delivery, and I don't know what this is, but we're about to find out. How would you compare putting him together to the Convergence Heavy Jack kits, if you've ever put those together? I haven't, but they look kind of obnoxious. They look like they're in a lot of pieces, so I cannot tell you how I compare. I would compare that on a scale of 1 to easy. This guy was super easy to put together, so I don't even know. All right, let's see what this is. This is a box with, oh my god, so much packaging. I don't know what any of this stuff is. Now you guys know I need a bigger studio. Or I need more space in my studio. Or I had to reorganize my studio because, oh my god, it's crazy. This is going to be... It's still not open. It's taped every which way. Oh, it's Warzone stuff. Cool. That's unexpected. Holy moly. This is the new Warzone Advanced Combat Card deck for playing Mutant Chronicles Warzone Resurrection. And then, holy crap, what is this? It's the tanks! Oh my gosh, this is so cool. This is the new Bauhaus light tank. Oh my god, these things are so cool. They're so neat. I think this is the... Yeah, that's the light tank. This is one of the new... Oh geez, that's something Dark Legion? Some kind of Dark... Oh no, it's a Mishma chain gun. So it's a Mishma chain gun. This looks like the... I think this is the Imperial light tank. Yeah, with the big rocket launchers and stuff on it. The big, like... It's like a big artillery piece. This is the new Bauhaus tank with, like, the triple guns on it. Oh my god, that's so cool. I'm going to pull up the pictures so you guys can actually see what I'm talking about here. I was looking at resin pieces all of a sudden. I don't know what any of this stuff is. That's cool. Armored stuff from a Bauhaus, because I love some Mutant Chronicles. And then, what is this? Oh, Ben's watching this right now. He's getting all excited. Because I'm going to give him that Mishma machine gun. And then this is random stuffs. I don't know what this is. Dragon bikes from Mishma. Ben. And then, what are you? More Dragon bike parts. This is the big crazy... Oh, it's the jet fighter? Geez, I don't even know what faction this is for. I think it's for the cartel, actually. The big crazy jet fighter. This is the... Oh, the spider thing for Dark Legion. That's so cool. The big Dark Legion spider tank. And then the last one is... I don't even know about... Some other jet fighter. Oh, this is the Cybertronic jet fighter. Yep, this is the big Cybertronic jet fighter. Crazy. Oh my god, I got vehicles coming to my brains now to build. So yeah, let's see if I can pull up some pictures of these online. Because this is the latest release for Warzone. Is all big tanks. And I'll pull up some pictures so I can show you guys what I'm actually talking about here. Hang on. Bonus content. Yeah, people are freaking out. It could be anything in that box. Even about. It did look proto-ish, yes. Oh my god, now Ben is going to be super happy. Warzone stuff. That's right. Hooray, is it Warzone? Got the Nova Spider and the bikes. Oh, I'm sorry, Ben. Well, now you have two. Now you can spam me, or I'll just paint them myself. Let's see what's here. So this is Warzone Resurrection. Let's pull up the website here, and I'll see if I can pull you guys up some photos. You can actually see what the things I'm talking about here are. This is the new stuff from Warzone Resurrection. And I do love Warzone. Warzone's one of those games from the 90s that I played to death. With actually my buddies Christian and Nico. Yeah, here we go. The classics are back. This is what it is. So I'm just going to share this Chrome window so you guys can see it. 1 second. It's funny because this is one of those things that, like, every time you set up a new live show, you have to do separately. Oh, and here comes my daughter. What's up, sweetie? What's up?
I want my back still.
You want me to go back? You want to go back to sleep so I can rub your back? Okay. I'm sorry. Well, I'm talking to the camera right now. Can you say hi to everybody?
Hi.
Hi. Were you napping?
Yes.
Yes. Did you have a good nap?
Yes.
We're almost done, but we're going to hang out for a minute. Do you want to hang out with me while I show these guys some pictures?
Yes.
Okay, you can hang out with me while I show these guys some pictures. So,
look, Dad, a Christmas tree.
It's not a Christmas tree. It's, well, you saw a Christmas tree. It's a tank in front of a tree. So you're not wrong. You're certainly not wrong at this point. All right, here we go. New local desktop presenter, so I can show you guys the Chrome window and you guys can see what it actually is. And I want to show you a window, and I want to select the window, and I want that window to be from here. It's so funny because you have to reset this every single time. You
Dad?
can't keep... Yeah?
What kind of puzzle is that?
That's Mommy's new puzzle, because Mommy's gotten really into doing puzzles again recently.
What kind of one?
I don't know.
What picture is it?
I don't know. It looks pretty cool though, doesn't it?
Can we see it?
Maybe in a minute.
Okay.
And let's see if we can just add that. New local desktop presenter. Where you going?
I want to have a drink.
You want to go get some apple juice? Okay, go get some apple juice. Apple juice is good for you. We just bought a whole bunch of apple juice because you guys live and die on apple juice. I think it was my last live show, maybe the live show before that, where I was talking about apple juice with these guys and how you guys just yell apple juice, apple juice, apple juice. Oh, it was when we were going to the movies, and I was telling you guys about that. And it was apple juice, apple juice, apple juice all the time. Here we go. All right, we got it up. Now I just need to share it with you guys. And it's going to be that. So you guys can see what these are. That's my other camera. That's the on thing camera. There we go. I'm going to go over to this. Oh, you're being obnoxious. It's laggy now because I'm trying to do too many things at the same time. There it is. Now you guys can even hear me. There we go. So this is the Protus website, and these are the things that showed up just now. So it's this, the Jewel releases. I think that's June releases. That's the Dragon Bikes right there for Mishma, and then the big Bauhaus tank, which is this thing right here, which I'll be painting for my Bauhaus army, which I'm pretty stoked about. The T-32 Wolfclaw JBT, the Bauhaus Junior Battle Tank. That's pretty cool. So it's not the Grizzly Battle Tank. There's the Dragon Bikes again, which are pretty neat. Classic. It's funny because the Dragon Bikes have the most second edition Warzone look, I think, of anything that I've seen recently, because they have the big, like, dragon head on the front of them with the mustache and stuff, which is pretty cool, too.
Dragon head with a mustache.
Yeah, you see right there, look. Dragon head with a mustache. Isn't that cool?
Yeah.
Yeah, kind of like Just in Time's big dragon thing that they had. And they put up the rules for free here, too, so you can download them as well. And then the other one is this stuff, the Spider Tank.
What's a spider tank?
Spider Tank, Spider Tank, Spider Tank. Armored Assault. It's this thing, this big crazy monster spider. Isn't that cool?
Cool.
So the Cybertronic Nova, which is the big plane, and then the Dark Legion Wolf Spider, which is this big crazy looking thing.
It's a wolf spider.
That's a great question. I'm assuming it's this big robot spider right here. It's a big monster.
And why is it giant? I
don't know. It's super cool. Walter says, show us the puzzle. That's funny. Yeah, the puzzle is a toy box puzzle. It's a 1,000 piece, like... Oh my gosh, hang on. Let me just see if I can reach it. Don't move. Put your juice down. You're going to knock over the juice. No, it's this. Here, can you show them the puzzle? Take that. Grab it. Grab it. There you go. So it's like all classic 80s toys.
Wow.
There's a puzzle that my wife picked up. She's gotten super into like puzzles to like relax recently.
Is the Barbie?
There's a Barbie, yeah. What else is there? I see some Hot Wheels cars. There's a Cabbage Patch Kid. There's some Rock'em Sock'em robots, which is pretty cool.
And that's what we have.
That's a Viewmaster. Now, you guys probably won't, I don't know, the younger of you won't remember Viewmasters, but some of you guys remember Viewmasters. And one of the best scenes in The Road Warrior from Mad Max is when they're using a Viewmaster, and the guy goes, Captain Walker! Mrs. Walker! Probably one of the greatest things in that. And that's the new dude that Daddy made. Can you see him? That guy's called the Skin and Moans.
What's a Skin Moan?
He's a big monster. He's pretty cool. I gotta get him painted. Is he cool? Is he scary? He kind of looks like something from Nightmare Before Christmas.
Why does he got shears?
He's got big shears because he's a monster. And he eats little girls.
Yeah.
That's his jam. He eats little girls. She always asks me what bugs eat, what things eat, and then I always tell her little girls. Because I'm an awful father. Yeah, so hang on. What am I doing here? Let's go back. That was like an infinity window there for a second. YouTube Inception, because we were watching YouTube into infinity. How deep can we go? I can see YouTube into infinity. YouTube Inception. I have a Viewmaster. Viewmaster's word dope. It was a stream within a stream within a stream.
Dad, what's this?
Those are the ends of my cables. So yeah, sorry, I just realized I wasn't actually streaming the photo of the puzzle. This is the puzzle right here. And it's like a toy box puzzle with like a million different toys on it. Everything from like Hot Wheels to Barbie to the Viewmaster. It's all Fisher-Price toys from the 1980s. There's Barbie and Ken. There's some little people. Dude, Kerplunk's on here. Classic football.
That's not Barbie and Ken.
No. Sorry, that's Big Jim actually. That's not even Barbie. That's Big Jim, whoever Big Jim was. Rock'em Sock'em Robots. Cabbage Patch Kid. There's a Magic 8 Ball. Yeah, Pictionary's on here. Crazy. Crazy old things. View Monster. We have to go deeper. Stream within a stream within a stream. That's funny. I can see YouTube into infinity. Pretty much. Puzzles for days. Yeah, no. Well, my kids, it's funny because as like a parent, there's one thing that we'll always buy our kids. We'll buy them books whenever they want a book, and we'll buy them puzzles. So they're allowed to have both those things. And we have this little like this cabinet right here next to me that you guys, it's just jammed full of puzzles. So we have everything from like these, which like the kids like Van Gogh like Starry Night puzzles. We have tons of like Pixar ones. This is one of Kat's favorite, which is space. This one gets a lot of floor time building the space puzzle. This is your astronaut puzzle.
Space puzzle.
We like the space puzzle a lot. What else do we have? We have your brother's favorite is this poor Thomas the Tank Engine one right here, which he's eaten like half the pieces for, so it's no longer complete. I'm sad to say. Yeah, no, we do a lot of puzzle time. You do a lot of puzzles, don't you? On the floor? Yeah. Puzzles get a lot of time here. And then, of course, books. So we got a whole bunch of books, too. You just got some new books. What books did you get? What new books did you get? We were reading a book last night. What was it about?
It was about
do you remember?
school.
It was about going to school. That's right, yeah, because we're going to school in the fall. So we've started reading books about going to school so that we can think about what all the best things are going to be going to school. Besides which, I only have one child to take care of for the next 18 months because they're gonna be far apart. Actually, she's going to be going to school early because she's born right as you have like the leap into junior kindergarten, and then my boy is born February 2nd, which means he's at just the cutoff of like being the next year down from her. So they're gonna be 2 years apart in school, even though they're 15 months apart in just like life. So it'll be interesting. Audrey Keith just said, "Oh my God, little child hugging the space puzzle just made my uterus grow 3 sizes." Oh, what can I say? She is pretty adorable. She has that effect on people. That and drinking apple juice is her other main skill. Is that good apple juice?
Yeah.
Yeah? Okay. Well, at this point, we're close to rounding out the end of the time. We're at an hour and 15. We had a good talk about the Grymmkin. I'm pretty stoked about it. What?
That's my Dory Nemo.
That is, because you're seeing yourself on the screen. That is your Dory and Nemo back there, yeah. We had a good chat about Grymmkin. She's just realizing she can see all of her toys in the shot now in the rest of the room. Yeah, we had a good chat about.
And look, Dad, that's the car.
What?
The big car.
What?
The big car right over there.
Oh, that is our big car. Yes, there's lots of cars. There's lots and lots of cars. So yeah, so no, we'll see the whatchamacallit, the more Grymmkin stuff going forward. I'm gonna try and find someone to do the scenarios with because I'd really like to do the campaign, especially even just like the kickoff one, like the multiplayer one. I could probably get a bunch of people in with like 25-point armies to play the multiplayer thing, and yeah, and then of course if Jay is interested in doing Grymmkin or if someone else does Grymmkin locally, maybe we'll play the 3-game campaign because I think the coming to collect their due from the governor or the local like administrator or whatever, the magistrate, is a really cool idea for a little narrative story, and I think it'd be fun to use some War Machine narrative games. It's just painting War Machine stuff because you paint War Machine stuff, which is my preferred way of doing anything really. So you'll see more of that coming forwards. Flying Dwellers, this is killing me. She's so damn cute. Yeah, this is my life. This is 7 days a week right here. Yeah, no, the hopefully the War Machine stuff will pick up in the next little while. Obviously, the hype from 40K is starting to settle down. Yeah.
Don't hurt my head.
I'm not. I'm just trying to get your hair to your eyes because no one can see you. You look like the kid from The Ring. If the kid from The Ring was curly haired because your hair is in your face. See, look at this. Can you see? Can you see it all? No. Can I push it back again? There you go. That's better. All right. So yeah, so we'll do some more War Machine stuff going forward. It's like I said, it's always about the opponents, and of course, people's excitement levels affect how often stuff comes out because whatever they're excited about tends to be what I play. So over the next little while, War Machine is in the whatchamacallit, the hopefully the meta of people's brains. We just had Lock and Load this weekend, which obviously had tons of neat keynotes. They have a lot of really nice announcements that they did. Just things are changing going forward and things they want to try and do. Blue Moose 1231. Ash loves painting me so much she even paints his little kids adorable little nails. You got your nails painted by mommy last night, didn't you? I'm not allowed to paint kids' nails. Are you kidding me? We got. What did you go to yesterday? You went to a birthday party? Yeah.
Dad, how do you get this out?
Well, okay, let's not do that again. I need those to protect my cables. You went to a birthday party, didn't you?
Yeah.
What kind of birthday party was it?
It was what?
It was a troll's birthday party.
Troy's birthday?
Yeah, and you got some trolls nail polish, and so mommy put some trolls nail polish on your nails, didn't she?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And now they're trying to get off.
It's starting to fall off, that's right, because on a 3-year-old, nail polish does not last very long. It gets picked off almost. It's like trying to put a sticker on them. It almost gets picked off immediately. So yeah, so I think it's going to be funny. Hey, what are you doing? Okay, well, you can pick it up, but don't touch the mic, okay? There you go. I think it's going to be really neat to see what Privateer Breast is going forward, because they're obviously trying to make a push towards a different type of playing the game, and I think that's probably really wise, because the more ways people play your game, the more diversified your customer base is. The more diversified your customer base is, obviously, the better for you as a business, because you can try new things, and people buy things for all kinds of different reasons, so you're not so subject to a single sort of like customer type. You don't have to worry so much about your rules when people buy your models for the aesthetics. You don't have to worry so much about the aesthetics if people buy things for the rules. It needs to balance out, and people need to enjoy all those things, and that way you can try and make a high quality product in all kinds of different directions, and people will respond to it all kinds of different ways. So I'm excited about it. They're doing new factions, doing new models. I really like this new faction book. I would love to see faction books for all the other factions that do this kind of like storytelling way of doing things. Yeah?
What's a fashion book?
A faction book. It's a story book about a different type of thing that people can play in a game. So all of the little toys that Daddy paints, all of them in this game have a book about them that tells you all of the stories about them. So there's a story about this guy, this big weird giant monster guy, and it tells you all the things about him and where he comes from and what he does and how he eats little girls.
How does he eat little girls?
I assume with his mouth.
Assume with his mouth?
Tormenting your 3-year-old is every dad's right. All right. So anyway, I think we're done. Thank you guys for watching. Thanks to all my patrons who jumped on today. And can you say thank you too?
Thank you.
Thank you. We'll do these next week, of course, for my patrons. I have my patron-only like Q&A where people sit in chats, and that will be linked on Patreon. I know you don't want to be all done, but we need to stop talking because you're interrupting every 3 seconds with new questions because you're 3, so you can only wait 3 seconds before you ask a question.
I just want to do one.
I know, but Dad needs to go make panko chicken for dinner because we're going to have chicken and rice for dinner. Does that sound good?
I don't want to have it.
What do you want to have for dinner?
Puzzles for dinner.
Puzzles for dinner. That sounds like your brother. They're full of roughage. Anyway, thanks for watching, guys. Big thanks for hanging out with us today. And yes,
I want to. No, don't turn it off.
I'm not turning it off. I'm just saying goodbye to everybody.
I want. You did turn it off.
I didn't turn it off. You just want to hang out with everybody forever? Yeah, and have a good time? It's so nice that you like hanging out with everybody, but it is so impossible to actually talk to people when you're here and answer questions because you have all your questions too. Yes.
My hair is falling down.
Your hair is falling down again. Can you hold your face? You want to go get a clip?
No.
No?
Here, it's up.
It's up. You're good? Okay. Well, anyway, thanks for watching. Thanks to all my patrons. Thanks, guys, on YouTube. We'll see you next time. It's on MASH. Happy Wargaming.